Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Welcome, Bruce. A
Hey, David.
freezing cold Saturday night, red hot Battle of Alberta, which the Edmonton Oilers lost by 1 goal to the Calgary Flames, 4-3. An extremely frustrating night for Oilers fans on a number of levels, including the loss. Quite a close game, though. I think the grade A chances were 10 for the Oilers and 11 for the Flames. Is that what it was? Or 9-10? And it was one grade A chance separating them. The Flames, I think, scored on a couple of B chances. Bruce, this is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. And because it's a loss and we're both in kind of a foul mood, let's start with some bad things, okay? What was
Okay.
are you ready to go, or you want me to
Oh,
go?
yeah, sure.
Okay, let her rip, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, are we only doing one bad thing, or there's a few? But anyway, the
Well, you
one
can
that's
we can both do two. I'm sure. No, we'll just do one each.
the one that stands out for me is Zach Cassian's loss of composure and discipline when he was hit hard but clean for a second time by Matthew Tkachuk in a tie game late in the second period. And rather than pick his helmet up and fasten his damn chin strap, he decided to go after Matthew Tkachuk, drop the gloves, and rain punches down on the guy whose well-earned nickname Turtle was seen yet again. But you know what? Tkachuk won the day. He'll take those punches and he'll take those 2 points 10 days out of 10. He won that battle fair and square by outsmarting and out-toughing Zach Cassian. And Zach Cassian wound up. I thought the refs kind of let him off a little bit light with only
Oh, did
a
they ever,
double
Bruce?
minor, a double minor, and a 10-minute misconduct. All of it well earned. I mean, that was he dropped the gloves and he threw several punches. Like that's fighting. Like, it should have been a major probably, and maybe 5-2. Because anyway,
Did you ever
it's. I
see
mean, you
five and
don't have to.
two
Yes,
without
five.
without the other guy getting anything?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, hey, Doug
That's
Waite
pretty
got
rare.
Doug Waite got 39 minutes to zero against Brian Marchment that one time.
Yeah,
Anything
but
can
how
happen.
would that be a 7-minute penalty? 5-2?
For two for roughing plus five for fighting against zero, yes, I have seen it, and it's not that rare.
Wow.
So
He
it's a
was
guy.
really lucky not to get that because instigator,
Yeah. Oh
uh,
yeah. Yeah.
instigator,
I could
uh,
easily been 2, 5, and 10.
yeah.
And versus nothing. I've seen that too, where the one guy starts the fight and the other guy just doesn't engage in it. And you can hate Matthew Tkachuk, and I know many Oilers fans do, and I'm sure there were some of us who relished in those few seconds when Cassian was throwing bombs down on Tkachuk, but the piper had to be paid. In this case, the piper paid the ultimate price, the game-winning goal on the power play, with Matthew Tkachuk playing the key role, screening Mika Koskinen as the puck flew past him and into the top corner. And he basically played the whole power play because he stayed out of the box when Zach Cassian couldn't. And
Bruce, did you? Okay, I'm guilty as charged in terms of relishing it as Cassian was raining down punches on the turtle's head. I mean, I was in the moment. I knew that this was bad, and I was expecting it to be worse. But in the moment, I was glad he was doing that to the turtle. Were you so self-contained at that point that you thought, no, oh well, this is just all bad?
well, it wasn't all bad. I mean, he did pop him a few, but you know what? Those were clean hits, David.
I know they
Like,
were. I
it
know they.
wasn't like Kachuk was running around hitting guys from behind or slew footing or doing the usual nasty stuff. He nailed Cassian 3 times in the game, once in each period.
Well, could it be
Pop,
charging, Bruce?
popped,
That last one. I mean,
popped
does
his
charging
helmet
have to
off
be when you
twice.
smash someone from the front? What if you suddenly spin around and smash them? I mean, it could be charging that last hit.
Uh,
I know. I don't think it was charging either.
yeah,
I
I
don't.
mean the refs weren't calling anything. I mean there was only
No, they weren't.
three power plays in the whole game, and two of them were this one loss of discipline by Zach Cassian. And I mean there were other reasons. I mean they had 19 minutes to get back in the game, and they couldn't. But it was one of those games. You knew that if they fell behind again, it was going to be a steep uphill climb. And sure enough, they were unable to beat Cam Talbot to tie it up. And
Hey,
I'll say this for myself. This is my own discipline, David. Instead of breaking a clipboard, as I've done on such occasions in the past, often against Calgary or Vancouver, I had the self-discipline to first of all remove my game notes from the clipboard before I crumpled them up and threw them against the wall.
Maybe you need some kind of a
Ah,
pillow that you can punch with the turtle's face on it, just a turtle pillow. And
there's 20 seconds to go in the third period, and the Oilers can't make a simple pass in the neutral zone, and they dump it in, and nobody chases the puck. I mean, come on.
God. And you know what,
Ah,
Bruce? The Oilers on this in some ways this was a typical Cam Talbot night in that he let in the Oilers in the first four grade A scoring chances the Oilers had, which took them early into the second period. Like they had a abysmal first period on a certain level when it came to generating grade A chances. They had two, but they scored on both of them. And then they scored on one of their first two in the second. So on three of the first four grade A chances, the Oilers scored. This is Cam Talbot. This is the Cam Talbot we know and grew not to love so much in Edmonton. But they couldn't hold the lead. They just couldn't keep it together. And about even when I think they were up, and I was thinking, no, they're gonna lose this game. There's just some kind of chaotic feel to this
mhm.
game and the Flames the Flames seemed sharper. They seemed smarter. They seemed edgier. They seemed faster. They were the bounces seemed to be going their way the whole time, and I just had this feeling that the Oilers were not going to be able to hold on in that game, and it proved to be true. There was no Bruce. The pen. I'll get to my bad thing right now. So that penalty, I'm sure the Oilers were desperate I'm sure they all hate the turtle. So they were probably thinking that they really, 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 really want to kill that off. And I bet you
Mhm.
if the penalty had all been in 1 4 minute segment at the end of the period, the momentum was going on the kill. I think they would have got it then. But there was a break. The Flames could regroup, and a little bit of emotion left the game in terms of the Oilers wanting to do everything they could. But my bad thing is Koskinen and Bruce. I think he should have. He guessed the wrong way. That was a good screen by the turtle in front of the net, but Koskinen guessed the wrong way. He looked, and then bang, it goes the other way. It's in. The first goal, same thing. He's deep in his crease. It's kind of a outside shot. It's a good shot. It's a tough shot. It's a scoring. It's a B grade scoring chance, but it's not A. He lets that in. All night long, he was letting the most ridiculous
Rebounds.
rebounds. And I mean that
Yeah.
the third goal, man, that was that just reminded me of Pee Wee hockey so much. Like where you just the goalie, you just say, oh, just cover the puck, and they couldn't cover the puck. Koskinen was fighting it, and Bruce, I don't want to say I told you so because that certainly wasn't the intent of my post today, but going into today's game, there was this. I was thinking Koskinen might have a good game because the story, kind of the narrative around him is, well, he got overplayed last year and that's why he played so poorly. So you'd think, well, if he gets a nice big rest, he's going to be really strong. He's going to come out strong. So I dug into it today using the great tool at Hockey Reference. And it's not the case with Koskinen this year. So when he's had just 1 day's rest, he's got a 934 save percentage. And he's in those 9 games with just 1 day's rest. He's had 6 excellent games and three weak ones. So that's a pretty good ratio for a goalie. But for the rest of the time, let me just look at the number here. In the other seven, is it 17? Yeah, other 17 games that he's played, he's only been sharp in 6 of them. And in 11 of them, he's been weak. So this is make that 12 out of 18 because tonight he came out and he made some great saves. And I was hopeful, okay, maybe they're through this, but the Oilers were just back on their heels, and of course they had to give up the first goal because of it, and it was deservedly so. The Flames deserved the goal by that point. Gaudreau had a breakaway, I believe, and but Koskinen, he was fighting it tonight, and this happens with the goalie, and he had been, I think, sick or injured, and he was on a long break, and so this, I hope they go back to him next game because I think he will bounce back from this, and I think if you look at the numbers this year, he doesn't need that amount of rest. So like I can see why they went with Smith so much, but let's get him back in there because he's been their best goalie this year, and they need him. They need him to play well. But he is my bad thing.
Yeah, he struggled mightily tonight. And I just thought he was sluggish. It's like he was slow reacting to shots. He wasn't controlling, like The rebounds weren't sticking to him, and he wasn't really controlling them. A lot of them were going into the slot. There was two or three times where he lost a rebound, and a Calgary guy had a golden chance and just couldn't hit the net. There was one Sam Bennett there. That was a shot like it was a nothing shot from outside, and Sam Bennett, all he had to do was, well,
Yeah.
like he got right around Koskinen, but he couldn't quite pull the puck into the net. If he did, it was a freebie. And also, he went out of the net to handle the puck, and he kind of standing around there waiting, and a Calgary guy comes and almost strips it off him, and it was like he hadn't played for too long or whatever. Or, I mean, who knows if he was banged up in that Rangers game like you and I thought he was. But tonight he just didn't look like he was on his game at all. He made some saves, but he never looked comfortable.
Hey, Bruce, before we move on for off the bad things, I just want to go back to the Cassian one. Because the other thing that happened there, and again, as he was pounding on Tkachuk, as the Turtle was taking it, I was happy. I wasn't mad at Cassian in that second, although I expected it to be bad. But one of the repercussions from that is the Oilers have had two good lines going, sometimes three good
Hmm.
lines when the Archibald,
Yeah.
Shea, and Nygaard line is going. And Cassian, he's become a really valuable player for the Oilers. Not in this game, but he was out of the game in a really key point of the game and it threw off the Oilers' lines. It didn't, there wasn't a lot of offensive generation. Let me just look in the third period here. Yeah, McDavid he and Neil created one chance, grade A chance in the third, but that line could have done a lot more, I think. They could have had the 1-2 punch going and they didn't. They just had the one punch going. Another real downside of Cassian foray there was it set the oil back in terms of any comeback attempt in the third period. Bruce, what's your good thing?
Well, I got to go with the goal by Connor McDavid, one that put Edmonton ahead 2-1 in the first period. And it was actually Calgary's seen this goal before. Cam Talbot has seen this goal before. Uh, it was the first game after the playoff season in 2017-18 when Edmonton shut out Calgary 3-0 and McDavid scored all three goals and Talbot got the shutout. And it looked like they were off and running on another team,
Oh,
another
I
good
remember
year.
that now. Yeah.
And McDavid's second goal in that game was just like this one, where he just raw speed turned what seemed to be sort of a neutral zone rush into a breakaway because nobody could. And he did the same thing where he cut across the front of the net and then shelved it back to the short side, right in the top, popped it right over the netminder's um, glove side, right in the top corner. Almost identical move and shot as that one. And it's basically an unstoppable goal. There was nothing Cam Talbot could have done to stop that goal because he had to move with McDavid going across the crease, and then when he puts a shot from that range right into the top corner, going at that speed when the goalie's pushing off on the on the foot that he needs to be able to move back to that corner, just no chance. And that was just an elite skill play at a ridiculous rate of speed.
Bruce, when he's moving that fast, and they said on Hockey Night in Canada, I believe it was 44 kmh, if I'm not mistaken. When he's moving that fast, he adds about 10 percentage points in terms of the difficulty of the shot. So he turns like a 30% chance into a 40%
Oh
chance,
yeah.
or a 15% chance into a 25% chance. And we've actually had to adjust, like, because we're grading grade A scoring chances. And if we're completely honest in judging McDavid, as he's charging down the wing and gets off a shot, it has a much higher chance of going in because he's moving so fast. The goalie has a hard time tracking it as compared to other players. And that was, I mean, that was obviously that's a case where you're right. It's like it becomes that was like a normal player might have had a 30% chance, and that was like an 80% chance for McDavid when he took that shot. It's just because when he goes to the forehand, the goalie's got to think he's going to beat me to the far post. Like he's going to come right across the crease and he's going to beat me to the far post and wrap it around me. So he's got to go that way. And then the misdirection, just putting it back in the other direction,
Hmm.
you're done. Like
Yeah.
there's if he executes that, because he's tried that at other times and he hasn't been able to execute it. But when he executes that shot, it's as close to a sure thing as you're going to find for a goal. I mean, there's obviously open net tap ins. So that was your good thing. Okay, my good thing, Bruce, is I'm just enamored actually, with the Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and Yamamoto line. And I was trying to think, like, why do these guys work so well together? And it's like blindingly obvious, of course. They all love to pass, and they can all really pass. They can all really pass the puck, and they love to pass the puck. And they're starting to have that feel of, to me, a European line. One of those, or the Hull, Hedberg, Nielsen, like one of those great passing, attacking lines where they're really moving it around well. And I hope to goodness gracious that they keep this line together, because it is really the goal that they scored. Yamamoto's Draisaitl's hard charge up the ice, puts it over to Yamamoto. Yamamoto cross seam to Nugent Hopkins. We're going to start to see that, I think, more and more. These guys really are. They're all smart. They all pass the puck so well. I think they like playing together. I think for the first time I'm seeing Draisaitl enthusiastically playing with two other players, one of them not being Connor McDavid. They're charging around, making plays. I can't. It's just, to me, when they come on the ice, I just expect good things to happen, and they almost always do. And I think Draisaitl's broken out of his funk. Whenever he's been away from McDavid, he's been in a funk. It's gone. This is working, and it's like it's a godsend for Oilers hockey fans, because we needed a second line, and this is it. Wow. This is fantastic.
Yeah. All three guys had it going on tonight for a big part of the game. I thought Yamamoto had a terrific game. He was the one Oiler that managed to draw a penalty. He earned an well-earned a pair of assists with, I believe, both primary assists on the two goals by Nugent Hopkins, but with good sharp passes to Nuge and good shooting position. He made a number of good plays on the puck in the defensive zone, and also in the on the attack. Also, just good at getting a stick on, like getting a piece of a clearing shot that might have been a nice thing, but instead he tips it into the zone because he's got a good stick. So lots of little details like that, but the kind of details that sometimes you don't see in a young player's game. And that's the really encouraging part, is that this guy's 21 years old and he's coming up and he's looking like a pretty polished hockey player. And of course, Nuge, well, they got a little lucky on the second one, to say the least, but the first one was an absolute snipe that beat Talbot glove side. And Draisaitl, other than, every once in a while he'll do that thing and you're going to go, don't do it, Leon, don't. Oh, he did it. At the end of the power play, where their line is drawn the power play, so he's already been out there for 20 or 30 seconds, plays the whole 2 minutes of the power play, and then they're trying to get their personnel ready. And that's the time that he decides to make a blind backhand pass across the opposing blue line, leading to an instant jailbreak and a great chance from the slot for the other team. And I don't know what it's going to take to get that out of his game. Because the payoff, sometimes those passes work so beautifully that the temptation obviously is too strong for him to resist. But it's something that he's got to buff and polish and pick his spots as to when to do that, and more importantly, when not to do that. And that was one of those times not to do that.
Every time at the end of
screaming at my TV at that.
Every time at the end of a long Draisaitl shift where he's been on the ice too long, and he's taking the puck through the neutral zone, I'm on like pins and needles. Like, is he going to just dump it in like he should? Is he just going to dump it in, or is he going to do something and turn it over? Because half the time he turns it over. So I'm the same. And on that play, as he turns it over, I'm just telling you, just skate right out, get off the ice, Leon. Just because don't even try it, because I just know you're going to laze back into the play, which he did. Just go straight off the ice and get someone who's fresh out there, because you're no good to the Oilers anymore. Like, you're done. So you might get back in the play and stand there, but again, for such a fantastic player, this is something that is both starting to drive us crazy and has for some time.
It's an Achilles heel for sure, and I wonder if his brain gets tired after a long shift or something. That's just a poor decision. It's not just that he didn't execute the pass. It was a bad idea. The pass was never there. He couldn't even see what was there because he was wheeling and firing it across the slot. But
maybe
that said, as mistakes by Oilers in this game goes, that one doesn't even make the top 10, I don't think.
Sure. Well, you said Achilles heel. Maybe when the goddess dunked him in the river, she held him by the head. not big deal.
Well, I don't quite want to go there with this player because he sure does make a lot of good things happen.
That was
But
fortunately most people
uh,
don't understand mythology, so they
yes,
won't understand just how nasty a comment
yeah,
that was.
silly
But
stuff.
I was just joking.
Yeah.
Okay. He is a very smart hockey player. I think you're right. Maybe it's like a lack of oxygen at the end of 3 minute shifts. Imagine that. Okay, where are we, Bruce? I want Yamamoto. I want to just one final comment about Yamamoto here.
Hmm.
Such a relief to see him develop as a player because the Oilers, they had drafted 2 years in a row wingers in Puljujarvi and Yamamoto, Bruce. And if they had struck out on both, it would have been, frankly, it would have been a kind of a disaster for the franchise. They needed one of those. They need one of those guys to step up into the top six. And for a while there, kind of like this summer, heading into the year, when it looked like that it might not happen for either of them, it's like kind of depressing. Like you can't miss. NHL franchises can't miss on top picks like that and survive over the long haul. They can't compete in the playoffs for the playoffs and in the playoffs if you don't hit on draft picks. So, after he was drafted, he had looked so spectacular in that August summer showcase, just like Broberg did this
Hmm.
year.
Yep.
Yamamoto had just been he just we'd all been over the moon crazy with how fantastic he looked in the summer after he was drafted in that August showcase. He just looked this, the second coming of like Denis Savard. So he's not going to be that, but it looks like he might be quite a fine hockey player. Man, if he doesn't get hurt, and that's like knock on my wood here, my computer, whatever it's made out of. Um, there's no like what have we seen? 6 games in a row. Like you can't. I don't think he's faking it. It's not like he's getting
Oh,
puck luck. I'm not talking about his point scoring. Just every aspect of his game is just really strong right now. And I saw that same thing in the AHL when he was healthy this year in Bakersfield. The games I watched, he was fantastic. So that's more good news about that. That's what's made the difference on that line, and it just makes a huge difference to the others. Changes their whole trade program, Bruce. Suddenly,
for sure. Yeah.
who you don't need necessarily if you're in a playoff hunt, you don't need to make that trade for the second line winger. You can focus on maybe the third line two-way center if that's what you think you need, or something else. Who knows what? Maybe they're not going to need to make any trades if the whole team's playing well, but we'll see. Bruce, what is your number?
I'm going to look at the face-offs tonight and the face-offs by period. Now, there was a graphic early in the first period that said Oilers won 7 out of 8, and they had the puck a whole lot in the first period. And in fact, in the first period, they won 12 and lost 4. Then in the second period, it was kind of 50-50. And in the third period, the Oilers won 5 and lost 17, including at even strength, just 3 out of 17 that they won. And some of these were pretty critical face-offs. Several of them after Calgary icings. And those, to me, those are huge plays. The other team ices the puck. They got tired guys out. You got your choice of line. They're stuck with their tired guys. And it all goes to hell the second you lose that face-off. You got to win that draw. And the Oilers, I don't know what it is. They consistently don't take advantage of icing opportunities. Same goes on the power play or the end of the game, empty net. Like there was a lot of face-offs in Calgary territory in the final frame, and Edmonton just was unable to get and maintain possession of the puck off of too many of those draws. And that was, I mean, it's just one number out of many, I'm sure, but it was one that caught my eye. And then when I look at the actual face-off summary report, it backs up what I saw, which was Oilers dominating in the first, getting dominated in the third when the game was really on the line.
Fair enough. All right, my number is 4, and that's the number of major mistakes on grade A scoring chances against that Adam Larson made this game. He started out pretty.
Oh,
He got beat on the breakaway by Gaudreau, as I recall. He just had a rough game. What did they ever let him get away with a lot of cross-checking? I guess they've decided for a while that they were cracking down. I think at the start of the 2017-18 season, they said no cross-checking. And Larson was drawing a lot of penalties, but he was just absolutely thumping guys into the back all game long. But there's some games where his foot speed is exposed a little bit, and this was one of them where the other team, if he's not totally in sync and totally on his A game, Larson can be a defensive liability at times. And this was one of those occasions where he had some rough moments. He was on the first goal. He and Clefbaum allowed the pass into the slot initially. He deflected the puck in off his body. It looked like it went off his body on the second goal.
He,
And there was other
he,
mistakes as well.
he was 100 miles out of position on the Goudreau breakaway, like a
Yeah,
minute and a half into the game.
yeah.
I don't know
You
where
don't
he
want
thought he
that,
was
eh?
going in the neutral zone with Johnny Goudreau. You know, that guy. I mean, we should know who he is by now. And he got in behind Larson for a great breakaway chance and the obligatory rebound chance. Give Koskinen credit; he came up with those saves, but that was, there was a few too many weak links in the Oilers in tonight's game, unfortunately, and cost them.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, as the defense goes forward, they're going to have some choices to make because they're going to have to clear some salary. They've got to sign Ethan Bear. They're going to have to sign Kyler Yamamoto, it looks like if this continues, and I think it's going to. This is the good news, right? They have these good young players that are going to command, that are coming up and are going to command some salary. And you don't want to lose those guys. You don't want to be like Chicago had to shed a lot of these great young players. So the Oilers have to be very careful not to overpay. And they're in a position right now where they're not really tied into, other than the Neil contract, right? They're not really tied in long term into a really bad contract. I don't believe they're not. So they have one, which is not bad. That's not bad for an NHL team. Most NHL teams have one. And Neil obviously is paying, he's living up to his contract this year, but who knows what's going to happen going forward. But so Larson's making 4, Russell's making 4, Matt Benning's going to have to be signed. I mean, I think we're going to see at least one of those players gone. And we'll see what happens with Nurse, how much he's asking for, and whether they can fit him in. Because, I've been watching Evan Bouchard, Sean Patrick Ryan, who writes for the Cult of Hockey, recently has been watching Bakersfield. Evan Bouchard is really coming on. His defensive game's coming together, and he's going to be ready next year, I think, to play in the NHL. He's such a fantastic passing. I mean, the thing about Bouchard, even when he passes it, those little passes off the boards, every pass he makes are on the stick, but even those little ones off the boards are right on the guy's stick. He's like the perfect pool player. But his defense is getting better. His gap control is getting better. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, the Bouchard situation, to me, that might be a little bit of a factor in the Ethan Bear negotiations. They might be a little more inclined to do a bridge deal for Bear while they're trying to figure out what they got in Bouchard. Because frankly, at this point, we're still trying to figure out what we got in Ethan Bear, which is a lot of good things, but there is a lot of defensive issues in his game. We saw some of them tonight, and there was some sort of scattershot passing. Some of it went to the other team, and of course that brain cramp near the goal on the 3-3, and there's the game is looking a little bit fast for him right now, and I'm fairly confident he's going to get over it. But let's just say this: I wouldn't sign him to an 8-year contract next week. I mean, let's let this play out and let's see what we got at the end of this impressive rookie season that he's had. And there are options, of which the bridge deal is one of the options. And there's, if you lock yourself into that player and then Evan Bouchard comes in and he is clearly, a better player, then what, right? So.
Yeah, because I was criticizing Larson for making 4 major mistakes on grade A chances against Bear. Bear also made 4 tonight.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's a lot. That is a lot. And fair enough.
2 games in a row, right?
Fair enough, Bruce. Because one of them you'd think is going to eventually run the power play. And Bouchard, I mean, that's why they drafted him. And he is a fantastic power player. He's got he's got a great shot. He's got the best shot of all of them. Bear's got a good shot. Bouchard's got the best. He's a really great passer. Like he's a different level, I think, of offensive hockey player than I think Ethan Bear's a very good offensive hockey player. I think Bouchard's one step above that. So you're right. I hadn't thought about that, but in terms of Bear's contract, that has to be, if they're watching Bouchard and they start to think, oh yeah, he is going to make it, and he could play third pairing and on the power play, for instance, next year. or, at least third pairing, and keep Clefbaum on the top power play or whatever they're going to do. Yeah, there's lots of options, and I just hope Ken Holland is very, very wise in where he distributes that money. So like this all comes into play, like with contracts like Nurse and Cassian and the veteran players. How much can you afford for these players when you do have talent coming up? And at the same time, with the keeping in mind on, you got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in their prime, you can't lose Nurse and Cassian, really. Like, you have to do everything you can to keep them. So what does that mean that maybe then for a player like Russell or Larson, maybe there's repercussions that flow down the line. So we'll see. Alrighty. Thanks for talking tonight, Bruce. You're doing the game grades, right?
I sure am. Wouldn't you know, I did 2 games on the road trip, the Buffalo game and the Calgary game.
Ah, well. Such is life.
Sigh. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to grade a win. I find it certainly is. So, well, good luck, and thanks for talking tonight, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.